I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. Welcome to worship with the family of St. Andrew's Baptist Church in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm Pastor D. Vaughn, and I'm so delighted that you have joined us on a special day as we worship God together. This is a special day, and that's why I'm in a special place. I'm on Seminole Road here in front of our church's first building. Here, the Broad River Baptist Mission was organized in 1950 and was constituted as a church in 1955. Some 8 years later, the church relocated to Bush River Road and became the St. Andrew's Baptist Church. This is Give of Your Best Day at St. Andrew's. Today, we remember a miracle that happened when our elder brothers and sisters in the faith came together to pray, give, and work. You'll hear more about this year's Give of Your Best offering and the projects it will support later in his service. Like those who began our church, we can accomplish great things when we give of our best. Let me tell you about today's worship service. Fred DeFore, accompanied by Christy Horton, will remind us of God's faithfulness as he sings Moment by Moment. Charlie Rivers will remind us of the meaning and importance of Give of Your Best Day. Tommy Johnston will challenge us to make all that we are and all that we have offerings to God. In today's message, we'll look at David and Solomon, the part each played in building the temple in Jerusalem, and the parts we must play to build God's kingdom today. Then, though we'll miss eating together as a church family, Zach Perisher will close our worship service with Christ's invitation that's always in force. Come to the table. Remember our heritage. Reach for our hope. God bless you as we worship together today.
Hello everybody, this is Fred DeFore and Christy Horton, our church pianist at the piano. Sometimes a composer or arranger will borrow the gist of a song, add his or her own touches, and end up with a piece that speaks very well across the years. This is an updated version of the old hymn with this title, Moment by Moment. Jesus, my Savior, I know you are here. You are my shepherd, so why should I fear? Gladly I'll follow whatever may come, knowing each footstep is leading me home. Moment by moment, I'm kept in your love. Moment by moment, new life from above. Lord, as I trust you, I find you are true. Moment by moment, I'm walking with you. Never a sorrow that you do not feel, never a sickness that you cannot heal. Through every struggle you
Today is a special day in the life and history of St. Andrew's Baptist Church. I've been a part of a lot of the gatherings and look forward to it each year. Last year we did GOYB a little different. We had the dinner down in the fellowship hall, and it worked out very nicely. So continuing that theme, this year we're going to do it different again. This year we're going to have it at our individual homes. You can have it either at lunch or supper, not breakfast. And as usual, I've got to say something about the menu. And I'm not going to tell you what to prepare. I'm going to tell you what not to have. Don't have string beans, broccoli, or liver. Let the men or the boys, the children pick out what the menu will be, and after they choose it, let them prepare it, and it'll be an exciting day for everybody. The Finance Committee has set 2 goals for this year's offering. The first $10,000 will be used for equipment and supplies needed to prepare for the facilities for safety and requirements for the sanitation during this period of virus. These funds will be used by our staff in consultation with the Building and Grounds Committee. Any additional gifts will be used to build our maintenance reserve funds to support our much needed heating and cooling equipment. In recent weeks, the membership has proven its commitment to the financial needs of the church. And once again, we're calling on you to meet these needs and make this a great, good day. The theme has always been not equal giving, but equal sacrifice. Okay. Let this year be a year to be remembered. Look closely in your envelope and you'll see this card. Use it, pray over it. It'll be used wisely.
Cake. Chocolate cake.
Oh, by the way, if anybody cooks a chocolate cake, call me.
Hey y'all, this is Tommy Johnston with the Light Zone Band. This is Offering by Third Day. Magnificent Holy Father, I stand in awe of all I see, of all the things you have created. Still you choose to think of me. Who am I that you should suffer your very life to set me free? The only thing that I can give you is the life you gave to me. This is my offering to you, Lord. This is my offering to you, God. And I will give you my life, for it's all I have to give, because you gave your life for me. I stand before you at this altar. So many have given you more. I may not have much I can offer, yet what I have is truly yours. This is my offering to you, God. This is my offering you gave your life for me. This is my offering, dear Lord. This is my offering to you, God. And I will give you my life, for it's all I have to give, because you gave your life for me. Because you gave your life for me.
As background for today's message, I invite you to look at the first book of Kings, chapter 8, beginning with verse 14. 1 Kings chapter 8, beginning with verse 14. Some of the joy and pomp and circumstance and worship associated with the opening of the temple in Jerusalem. While the whole assembly of Israel was standing there, the king, that is Solomon, turned around and blessed them. Then he said, "Praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, who with his own hand has fulfilled what he promised with his own mouth to my father David. For he said, 'Since the day I brought my people Israel out of Egypt, I have not chosen a city in any tribe of Israel to have a temple built for my name to be there. But I have chosen David to rule my people Israel.' My father David had it in his heart to build a temple for the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. But the Lord said to my father David, 'Because it was in your heart to build a temple for my name, you did well to have this in your heart. Nevertheless, you are not the one to build the temple, but your son, who is your own flesh and blood. He is the one who will build the temple for my name. The Lord has kept his promise he made. I have succeeded David my father, and now I sit on the throne of Israel, just as the Lord promised. And I have built the temple for the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. I have provided a place there for the ark, in which is the covenant of the Lord that he made with our fathers when he brought them out of Egypt." Well, this promises to be a big week for the Vaughn family. On Wednesday, our granddaughter Juliana will celebrate her first birthday. And on that same day, if everything is in order and all of the punch list has been worked, Josh and Jen will close on the purchase of their new home. Since Josh, Jen, and Jules have been living with us during much of this construction project, we've been able to look over their shoulders, watch the house building process unfold, and at times express a few opinions. I've seen that opinions are much more fun when you don't have to pay for them or live with the outcome. Buying or building a home is a dream most families carry in their hearts. They want their place. They want a door that opens into a place of support and security. They want to know where home is. Building is a dream, but building a house, a place, is only part of that dream. In fact, despite all the legends about couples threatening to split up over choosing a ceiling fan or converting the garage into a man cave, it's one of the easier parts of the dream. The true dream we long for and want to fulfill isn't about building a house, but building a life. The dream is relationships. The dream is belonging. The dream is love. How often have we seen the tragedy of a family moving into their dream home but failing to build a life of love? That dream house quickly becomes an asset to sell, to split the profits between split-up spouses. The dream is to truly build a family. In the scripture we share today, we learn that the Jerusalem temple began with a dream in the heart of King David. He, in the words of our passage, had a heart to build. As we'll see, David had to do one kind of building before his son and successor, Solomon, could construct the temple. David prepared the way and passed on to his son a heart to build. Today is Give of Your Best to the Master Day at St. Andrew's Baptist Church. Obviously, our celebration is much different than in years past. We're not together in our sanctuary, but we're connected through the internet. We won't have a feast to share on the church grounds after the service. Some very fortunate pig's life has been spared. But we can still remember the wonderful things God has done in the past and will do in our future if we have a heart to build. Our elder brothers and sisters in the faith had a heart to build. That's what this annual celebration is all about. As they envisioned a Baptist church in this community, they reached a time of soul-searching challenge. That small band of believers needed to raise $20,000 in a day to get the work started in earnest. That would be the same as us needing to raise $170,000 in a single offering. Charlie Rivers has told me the story of a meeting led by one of our fathers in the faith, R.D. Anderson. He asked the 9 men in attendance to show how much they believed in building a church. He gave each of them a small slip of paper and asked each one to write down anonymously how much he intended to give to make it happen. When he gathered the papers and totaled the pledges, he replied, "Men, you don't really believe in this work. We need to pray about it. I want us to get on our knees this time and ask God how much we should give." 2 hours later, R.D. gave each attendee a second piece of paper. This time, that group had pledged $11,000 of the $20,000 the church needed. On the big day when the offering was counted, the church had raised that miraculous amount. They hadn't thought about what they'd do with that much money until the bank opened on Monday, so the offering was kept overnight in a church member's freezer. And by the way, that's the day the phrase cold cash was invented. We came from a family of believers with a heart to build. This is a good day to ask ourselves if we still have that heart to build. As we do, let's consider the story of the building of the temple and some lessons that it offers us. First, think about this. A heart to build makes you part of something bigger than yourself. David had it in his heart to build a temple in Jerusalem, but as you read this story, you realize David didn't get to do it. He didn't see the work begin, and he wasn't there for the dedication. But what I want you to see is that David did something just as important and just as impressive as what Solomon was able to do. David built a people who could build the temple. When David came to the throne of Judah and Israel, his people were surrounded by enemies, deeply divided among themselves, and were lukewarm at best in their devotion to God. They were in no condition to come together and accomplish something as demanding as building the temple. They wouldn't have agreed where to build it. Each tribe would have wanted it in their neck of the woods. They were so preoccupied with keeping enemies from invading their homeland and destroying their lives that they didn't have the money or time to devote to a construction project. David devoted his life to building a people. He led them in defeating many of their enemies. He brought them together as one people under his leadership. He led the people in giving true allegiance to the one true God. David didn't see the temple built, but there wouldn't have been a temple without him. He did what may have been the toughest work. He built a people who were capable of building something wonderful for God. Why then, you might wonder, didn't God allow David to see his dream come true? I think it's because of this. God gave David a dream that was bigger than one lifetime. David had a part to play and did it well, but he couldn't do it all. His heart to build made him part of something much bigger than himself. We need to learn and live by that truth. Your life or mine becomes very small when all we dream of and work for is my own success, my own rewards, or my own pleasure. When that short-sighted, selfish spirit takes hold of people, any great accomplishment breaks down like the unfinished Tower of Babel. But when God gives us a heart to build for Him, we accomplish great things and know the joy that comes only by working together. Linda had some great ministers in her life before she met me. She told me the story of a day she learned about the amazing power of working together. Reverend Jerry Gerald, her church's music minister, had the children of the church gather around him. He asked them if they believed they could lift him off the floor using just 2 fingers of each hand. Well, no one believed they could. Then he laid down on the floor and asked the entire group to surround him. Each person was asked to put their pointer and middle finger under him and lift. To the amazement of the group, the children lifted Mr. Gerald off the floor easily and learned the amazing power of joining others to accomplish something bigger than yourself. If God gives you and me a heart to build, then we'll plant some trees we may not have the chance to sit under. We'll invest in people we may never see step up and lead. We'll play our part here and now to accomplish something for God much bigger than ourselves. David offers us that example to follow. Solomon can also teach us an important truth about having a heart to build. Here it is. You must own the dream to bring it to completion. Many of you ate a hot dog or two at Edna's on River Drive. They didn't have a drive-through or an app, but they were very famous in these parts. They're gone now, not because they lost customers, but because one generation of leadership came to the end of their working lives, and no one in the next generation stepped forward to continue the work. A dream will die if no one owns it, makes it their own, and carries on into the future. The temple was completed because just as David felt called to begin the work, Solomon felt called to complete it. He didn't let the dream of a place where his people could worship God and learn to live for God die with his father. He inherited his father's dream, made it his own, and brought it to life. Our fathers and mothers in the faith had a dream of a church in this community. They wanted a steeple to rise above this community, lifting high the cross of Christ to say to all who live here and all who just pass by that Jesus, His life, death, and resurrection is the central event of all human history. They wanted a place where families could come and each member of the family be discipled, taught what it means to love God, and given opportunities to live for God. They wanted a place where people come together to celebrate life's greatest joys and bear one another's burdens. They had a heart to build this church in brick and mortar, in flesh and blood, and in spirit and truth. That first generation of leadership, our David generation, is coming to the end of their journey. In the words of Paul, they've fought the good fight, run their race, and kept the faith. But many of them have now gone home. Others carry on beneath the burden of advancing age. The day of their labors for God, of working to build the church, are coming to a close. This generation, people like you and me, must own that dream if we're going to move it on toward completion. I'm often asked, what's happened to cause the decline of so many churches in our day? Well, researchers name many contributing factors, changing demographics, weekend sports, ease of travel, and a new generation that hasn't embraced the Christian faith, at least not in the way we understand it. These are all true. But I think our passage gives us a powerful insight into what has happened to many churches and how we can do better. The rising generation, the Solomon generation of this church, hasn't owned the dream of building God's church. Many lack the heart to build. In 2 Kings chapter 2, a very dramatic and consequential moment comes in the story of God's people. Elijah, the faithful prophet, who's led his people through a long stretch of their journey toward freedom, was coming to the end of his life. He and his helper Elisha traveled to Jordan, talking about many different things. Then, miraculously, Elijah was taken up into heaven in a fiery chariot. His work for God was done. Elisha, left behind, staring into the sky, perhaps wondering what the next chapter of his life would be, saw the mantle, the cloak Elijah had worn, but now had left behind. Elisha picked it up and made that mantle his own. The heart to build God's people was alive in him. He wore that mantle, did that work, moved that dream forward for the rest of his life. I believe St. Andrew's Baptist Church has come to just such an important time. People who've been our leaders, people from whom we've learned how to be a Christian, how to be a church, people we've loved and admired. Many of them have put down the mantle, as many of them have finished their work for God. We, like Elisha, stand staring into the heavens, amazed by what we saw in their lives, feeling a bit left behind, and wondering what the next chapter of our lives as Christians and as a church will be. Then, God opens our eyes to see something our fathers and mothers in the faith left behind when they went to heaven. A mantle of leadership, a calling to serve, a heart to build God's people and build God's kingdom. Do you see it? Will you pick it up? Will you make their dream your dream? Do you and I have a heart to build.
To the table and savor the sight, and the bread that was broken. All have been welcome to come if they might, except as their own these two tokens. The bread is his body, the wine is the blood, and the one who provides them is true. He freely offers, we freely receive. To accept and believe is all we must do. Come to the table and taste of the glory, and savor the sorrow. He's dying tomorrow. The hand that is breaking the bread soon will be broken. And here at the table, one is a trick, and one will deny, though he's lived his life for them all, and will be crucified. Come to the table, he's prepared for you, the bread of forgiveness, the wine of release. Come to the table and sit down beside him, the Savior wants you to join in the feast. Come to the table, see in his eyes, the love that provider has spoken. And you are welcome, whatever your crime, every command you've broken. For he's come to love you and not to condemn, and the offers of pardon of peace. If you'll come to the table, you'll feel in your heart the greatest forgiveness, the greatest release. Come to the table and taste of the glory, and savor the sorrow. He's dying tomorrow. The hand that is breaking the bread soon will be broken. And here at the table sit those who have loved him. One is a traitor and one will deny, though he's lived his life for them all.